Hello, YouTubers. This is another session in our podcast series where we get to talk to technologists, engineering entrepreneurs, people that have changed, our industry massively in one way or another. We talked in the past with so many different people, Steve Sanderson, Mads Torgerson, Fowler, and all these great people. And today I'm bringing in another person that I really admire, and I really appreciate his hard work. I try to say his name the native way he does it, but it gets a little, hard for me. I call him Egil Hansen, but Eagle has a different way of pronunciation, right, Eagle?
No, no, you're good. It's fine.
So
That's
let me
perfect.
let me tell you guys a little bit about Eagle. Eagle made his debut in the open source space, with a project called BUnit. BUnit is a testing library that allows people who are writing web applications in Blazor to test drive their components. This little piece, this library right there, have completed a whole set of work that actually allows Blazor to take itself to the next level in terms of being, valuable, usable enterprise technology that we can use to build end-to-end systems with it. I personally have used Eagle's library at its very early times with the insider trading compliance platform and so many other platforms I built inside and outside of Microsoft. And he continues diligently. This is like a one-man army. There's a bunch of people helping him, but if you look at his repository, he's doing all the heavy lifting there. Every now and then someone really awesome will come in and lift a little bit of the work, but mostly you're looking at this guy, you're looking at a one-man army. How you doing, Eagle?
I'm doing good, Hansen, and thank you very much for having me on your podcast series. You mentioned the great names that come before me, and it's a bit scary to follow them. It's I think like. We have a saying in Denmark, like I'm the thin beer to their thick beer, or like the foam on top of the
Ah,
the
you're
good
just
part of
being
a beer.
humble.
No, but seriously, David Fowler and Mads talking. There's some like, and even Steve Sanderson, which is one of the reasons why I even created B Unit. So it's a humbling company to be in, definitely, and you yourself are doing great as well. And I love watching what you do online as well. So it's and your support of open source and everything. So it's a fantastic group of people to be involved with, definitely.
Yeah, I appreciate you, brother. To my surprise, when I was having conversation with Steve Sanderson, I thought BUnit was actually an extract of his proposal for a testing framework, and he stopped me right there. He said, "Let me stop you right there." He actually started his own thing around the same time I did mine, and he basically started BUnit, and then he reached out to me and said, "Hey, how can I make this a little bit?" better. What's the rest of this story? How did that work out for you?
Well, yeah, no. Well, so I stole everything I could from Steve. Obviously, no. So the original backstory for B Unit was that I sort of had my wife, who's from Iceland, convinced me to take the kids and move to Iceland with her and sort of settle down there. And I ended up going to my boss and said, "Well, I guess I'm moving to Iceland," and we thought about me having some free time as well to. She's a doctor and needed to specialize as well. So basically, I would have a maybe work part time, and that's a big obvious fantastic privilege to be able to say, well, I'm going to go down to part time and then have some time to both do my own thing, try to do a little bit of open source. I hadn't really done, like you said, BUnit was my first real trip into open source. I've been sort of the uh,
Your
what's it called, the
debut,
enterprise,
your
the
entrance.
gray
Yeah.
matter of the Microsoft development ecosystem. That just been watching from the outside using the open source stuff, but I haven't really given anything back in terms of contributing my own stuff. So I thought it would be fun for me to sort of try that out, see if I can make a significant impact in some way, and that around that time in 2019, I obviously, like many people in the Microsoft ecosystem, watched Steve Sanderson do his first introductionary talk on Blazor and got interested and hooked on that. And I sat down and wanted to be build a bootstrap component library like so many other people did at that time. And
Uh,
I quite quickly realized that I couldn't test the thing I was building. like in
Yeah.
an automated fashion. And
Yeah.
my way of building software has been for quite a long time to sort of go at it in a test-driven development approach, because that's sort of how I feel comfortable and feel safe, like feel I can. And I don't really, I don't think feel smart enough to develop software without tests supporting me. Like the first prototype is fine, but as soon as I want to refactor things, I start questioning myself. Did I break something over here? And now I have to manually test, and I end up wasting so much time doing that. So I tried to sort of figure out a way to test Blazor components, and I hacked a few things together, and I engaged with the Blazor community on the GitHub channel. It was
Hmm.
quite strong at that time, especially, and sort of asked some questions and like, how do we actually just render a component and get the output of that so we can, validate it, and one thing led to another. And I think around that time, where that was sort of February, March, I think, I
Uh-huh.
started that work. And then I believe it was later in the year, in September or October, that Steve had, if you can still find his blog post online, where he sort of introduced the unit testing prototype that he was building on. And I jumped on all that good stuff he had, because he had obviously there's
Hmm.
some quite delicate insights,
Yeah.
or specifics of how the Blazor renderer works, and that I hadn't figured out at that point. So I
Yeah.
was just hacking things together and trying to get things to work. And then Steve came out and showed basically how you can sort of wrap that Blazor renderer in a specific renderer targeted at testing, so that you can get the output out in a sort of stable and safe way. And there were some things around making the a test run more deterministic, and there's some edge cases. So basically, I took all the things he had that sort of that I needed, and then I added that on top of some of the things I was building at that time, around doing semantic comparison, for example, of HTML. So that
Nice.
was something I sort of quite quickly realized, especially if you're doing a component library, you would want to, and for Bootstrap, which was my
Uh-huh.
example, you go into the Bootstrap website and look at the documentation there, and it tells you exactly what markup you need to have to get
Yep.
the result that you want, and
Yep.
with the whatever attributes and everything. And so, in for that particular use case, it was very useful for me to sort of have something that where I can compare the generated markup with the expected markup. And initially, I used a library. I can't remember the name of it, but it was built to compare XML
Hmm.
semantically. So it will tell you, well, this XML part over in the test output
It's not the
doesn't
same.
match the XML on the control
Yeah.
output, and it
Yeah.
misses an attribute or whatever. And
Yeah.
and that worked very well, but it also had some problems, because HTML5, which is what we want to generate, isn't XML. it's
Yep.
it's
Yep.
it's a bit loose. It's the browser is very forgiving. So you quickly ran into sort of issues where I was fighting more with the library, and then that took me into building a second open source library called AngleSharp Diffing, which builds on top of AngleSharp, which I use internally in BUnit to represent the DOM tree. And AngleSharp
Nice.
Diffing understands the HTML5 semantics, and knows when you're comparing two elements, how they should be compared, like a paragraph tag should be compared to another paragraph tag, and if you have a pre or code tag, well, you compare that differently, because then white space matters, for example. So that's all sorts of different things. So it was sort of ended up being a thing that I pulled out to the side, and created a separate library for that, and had great help from Florian Rappel, which is the lead maintainer of AngleSharp, and he sort of jumped in, and I ended up having AngleSharp Diffing becoming part of the AngleSharp organization, and it's all own thing right now. And so, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I'll,
that
I'll
was a
tell you.
long answer to your question, I guess.
That's all right. I can tell how excited you are. I
Mm,
really appreciate this zeal and fire and passion that you have, and the work that you do is what I actually really chase. And I
mhm,
can tell you this for sure. Every innovation, and you have to agree with me on this. This is an innovation. Being able to write, a framework test framework for a brand new technology. Like a lot of people, and I'll tell you this, for a fact, Eagle, your biggest inspiration is not necessarily building yet another testing framework, but rather being brave enough and willing enough to go out there and say, this is a brand new technology, right, that may or may not take off. I'm going to write a framework to be able to test it. And, this is the pattern and this is the kind of fire that I want people, because, like I always tell people, technology eventually will be legacy, and then a new
mm,
technology will come to replace it. right? But if you build strong relationships and learn as much as you can about the patterns and the, the circumstances that led to building these technologies, that's what we actually can carry forward. It's like design patterns, right? But for people. So okay, so we jumped super straight. That just shows
Yeah,
how nerdy we are, you know.
yeah. Straight into code.
I'll tell you something funny though, and that might make you a little bit happy. Is that I picked up Steve Sanderson's code, POC testing, and I said to him, I'm gonna wrap this up and put it in a NuGet package because I don't want to reference another project that was back early 2019 when the technology wasn't really that stable. And he said to me, nope, don't do that. Go get Egil's library. He knows exactly what you're doing. He's keeping track, and he really appreciates the stuff that you do. But before doing that, do you want to tell us a little bit about you? What's your name, Eagle? How do you say your full name, and where you from, and how did you get into technology? Go ahead.
Okay, so my name in Danish is Egil Christopher Gorm Hansen, and
Nice.
I am originally from Denmark. My mother is from Norway, so my name isn't as common in Denmark. It's more common in Norway, and in Iceland we actually have a different version of that name here as well. So nobody in Denmark and in Iceland where I've lived can say my name right, but that's fine.
Hold on,
And
Eagle. Let me
yeah,
show people where Denmark is. I want to show people
absolutely. Oh
while
yeah.
while you're talking. Okay, you're saying you're okay. So you are from Denmark, right?
Yeah.
So you're exactly from the same from the same country as Mads Torgersen.
Yeah, but he was. I haven't lived in Aarhus. He lived in Aarhus, and I lived in Copenhagen at least half of my life.
I see. You're
So
you're here, Copenhagen.
yeah,
Man, that's a
and
nice city. Okay. All right. All right. And you said your mother is from
Norway,
Norway. So
there's another
Norway,
Scandinavian country. That's a bit. If you scroll up from Denmark, like straight up,
there it is.
yeah, and Iceland
And now you live
is
in Iceland, which is like all
yeah
the way up
in
here.
Reykjavik.
Oh
Yeah.
my God. So,
Yep.
I'll tell you something interesting though. I was talking to Hanselman once, and he said, "What is it with people from Scandinavia making all the technology?" And I was like, what did you just say? Because, if you think about it, Linus Torvalds is from Finland, right? I think Mads is from Denmark.
Denmark.
You are from Denmark. There's all these different folks that are living in the
Yeah,
Scandinavian country.
Anders Heisberg is from Denmark as well, and
Yes,
I forgot the name. Bjarne,
Bjorn
the
Straustrup.
guys. Yeah,
Yep, Bjorn Straustrup, the C++
so
guy.
for 5 to 6 million Danes, we have. Well, I say we, but they have had quite an impact, and Scandinavian people in general. There's also some great people in the other Scandinavian countries. I
So
don't know
let
if it's a
so, so
culture
so
thing, but
why?
it's
Why is that? I
okay.
really
Well,
want to
I
know.
can
Like,
tell you my story because I
tell
don't
me.
really know,
Go
to
ahead.
be honest.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
But so, like I said, I sort of my high school years was in Copenhagen, and after that, uh, I didn't like. I came from a, I guess you would say, lower class family in the States. Like we were living, I was living with my mother, and she was divorced, and sort of living paycheck to paycheck. And you have to understand, in Denmark, it's not the same necessarily as it would be in the States, because
Mhm.
like if you get sick, hospital is taken care of, education is free, and so on and so forth.
Yep.
So that there's a different level of discomfort for living like that. But obviously,
Yep.
if you don't have the latest computer, you don't have the latest toys and tools and clothes and
You
stuff
won't
like
be
that. So
able
so
to.
it,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was from a Danish point of view, I was definitely like growing up lower class, but that was fine. It was okay. And then I got into gaming. Like I heard you talk about you also play first person shooters when you have to relax. I've stopped doing that, but get back to that another time. But I basically got like around 1999, I got into Quake 3, and I've been gaming all
Nice.
my life. My starting computers was as a 13-year-old, where I used my some money I got for I think it's called confirmation in like a Christian thing when you get around 13. I'm not really. I have to admit I'm not religious at all. But that was something you just did because tradition, right? So I'm traditional in that I like traditions, but I don't necessarily. Religion is not me, but anyway, I've been playing computer since I was 13, like on an old computer, and then up 1999 I started playing Quake 3, and after a couple of years I actually got very good at that. Like I was going to competitions and sort of reached my peak in 2001, where I think I got a 5th position at a Scandinavian qualification to the World Cyber Games in Seoul. And I was like, I got number 5, and the top 3 got paid tickets to go to Korea to be part of the World Cyber Games. Like I was so bummed I couldn't sort of get through to that. But I also sort of slowly realized that my I was probably one of the very best one-on-one players in Denmark in Quake 3, but I also sort of, my talent was sort of reaching its limit, and at that point, there was no Twitch, there was no, you had to be very, very good. There was one player from the States called Fatality, who was able to, live off, getting sponsorships and having people play him, and he won some tournaments. He was really good, but, me, especially on my level, I just good enough for Scandinavia and one of the better ones in Denmark. I didn't see. I sort of realized there was probably no future for me here. Like I couldn't, that wouldn't be.
It's not for me.
Make my money. Well, it was for me. The problem is, I worked at a local computer cafe where at that time, you went there because
cyber cafes.
You had like you haven't had an ISDN modem at home maybe, and then you can go down to the cyber cafe, and they had their that was their heydays because they would have 2 megabits DSL connection, so you could people would actually come there to play competitive games and so on. So I worked there for 8 hours a day, and then I played for 8 hours, and then I went home to sleep, and really got good at it. I'm very competitive by nature, but. Around that time, I also met through that job. I met a guy who came to Denmark from ex-Yugoslavia. There was this big war in 1991.
It's like 3 countries now. Like Bosnia and Croatia.
Goran is his name, and he came from there when he was a small child, and he was early 20s when I met him. I was working there. I was also my early 20s, and sort of. That perspective on life he had, like he was like he was a doorman at 16-year-old. He was like a big dude, but he could also talk algorithms with you. So that was sort of a not the like your stereotypical guy who stands in the door and watches guests going into to parties and stuff. They don't but he was super smart, but also very well built. And at one time we were talking, and he was like, well, here in Denmark you have 3 universities. And you even we actually get money from the Danish government while we are educating ourselves. So you get sort of a small paycheck, as it were. So you can sort of basically get paid to take an education, whatever you want. So he was like, why are you not using that opportunity? Like, it's a completely wasted opportunity. Why and then he sort of, exactly. But basically, the point was he was coming from a different country where those options were not there.
It's not there.
So basically, I've been kind of lazy at school because I basically like to play computer. So in Denmark, you have to, like, the way you qualify for university is by having good grades in high school. And if you have good enough grades, you get to pick where you want to go. And obviously there's some, like, if you want to go to medicine, for example, you have to have really, really high grades because they just take the high gradest, the people with the highest grades, and they have so many spots per year. But then, computer science was, good for me. It didn't require too much because, like, it isn't as popular as medicine, I guess, or being a lawyer or something like that. So I sort of took the additional classes I needed to get up to speed, and then I was able to go to university as the first one in my family, and that's sort of a thing. Maybe that's something to do with it in Scandinavia in general. You have that safety net that makes it possible for you to I don't know if it's easier, but you can certainly break those barriers between the different, I want to say classes, but maybe that's not, but society levels. Like, I was the first one in my family who was able to go to university, or actually did go to university, not able, but I did go to university, and and right now I guess I'm very much middle class. Like I have good income and have lots of privileges. Being able to do open source, for example, like being able to actually spend some time on that is also a privilege, I guess. On top of being white and blue eyed and a male, so I basically tick all the boxes. So my problems are inherently first world problems. I can't really complain compared to anybody else, I guess. But
I know,
but
I
yeah,
know
so
people, I know people in Denmark are the happiest, like one of the happiest people in Denmark. You know that happiness
we
rates.
drink a lot of alcohol.
It's either Sweden or Denmark. Gosh, I forget, but I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted. Go ahead. Go ahead. Hmm.
No, no, it's fine. You're fine. It's no, yeah, that is something that comes up every year. That Denmark is certainly in top two or top three every year, and I don't know
Yep.
how they measure
Yep.
that
You guys are
exactly
number
because,
two. It's Finland and then number two. So
yeah.
people get free education and they get free healthcare and they're happy, basically.
Well,
Okay.
so if you look at like a needs pyramid, I think that's the right term. Like the very basic thing you need as a human to have a good life is
Yep.
you need safety and
Survival, food.
survival. You need
Yep. Yep.
food, safety.
Yep.
You need to be, and when you're the most vulnerable,
Yep.
the knowing that you can call on an ambulance or get the help you need to get on top and get fixed up, and not being in debt for the rest of your life or spend all your savings on medical
I
bills.
can't relate to
Uh,
that at all. I don't know what you're talking about. We don't see
no,
that
no,
in here.
but
I'm
to
just
me
just
that
messing.
to me that's actually freedom, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is
So
actually. Yeah,
it is a
yeah.
form of freedom because I can go and quit my job because my healthcare is not tied to my job. I won't
Yep,
have as much
yep,
money next
yep. You,
month,
you don't
but I
have to
can quit
think
my
about
job
that.
and
Yep.
I know my kids are safe and my family is safe, my wife is safe, and we have a good life, and I have the freedom to choose that. The opposite side of that, and there has been some rumblings, especially in the Danish startup community, is that there's not a lot of push in the same way that there might be in
In the
Silicon
US,
Valley
yeah,
or elsewhere,
yeah.
because people are inherently safe, so they don't have the bigger
They
need
don't
to
have to
take
work that
chances.
hard. Hmm.
No,
Hmm.
well, they do. I think people work hard, but it's not about working hard. It's more like you have to choose. Do I need to spend my evenings doing a startup as well while I have my primary job just to have that extra,
Yep,
something to fall back on if
yep,
for some reason I
yep,
get fired or not?
yep.
People don't do that. They prioritize other things like spending more time with their family, and obviously when you start doing open source like I did, that eats out of that time. So I'm
Yep,
no saint
yep.
in that, but it is a different dynamic, and you know. So that might be some of the reason why people also stay in universities longer, do more research. Like I think Mads Torgersen came from Aarhus University, where he was
Yep,
a professor,
yep.
and he could have had a very well-paying job for a long time before he decided to join Microsoft. And but you you are you're happy enough where you are, then you don't
Yep,
maybe
yep.
actively go and seek other things. I guess I don't know. I think I've gone
I
off on a
No,
tangent,
no, no,
but
you're
yeah.
right. You're right. I noticed something though with most startups, like especially the startups that are very prominent and popular these days. It usually gets started by college dropouts who can afford to stay in their parents' home in the garage and build something. So in a way, I'll tell you this much, Eagle, and while I'm thinking about what you're saying, I think that what Denmark is doing, right? If you don't have to worry about healthcare, if you don't have, what about food, Eagle? How does Denmark treats homeless people?
Well, they are trying very hard to help them, but you know, man, I'm not an expert, to be honest.
No, no,
My
it's all
sense
right.
is
I'm just,
that home. No, no, but I don't want to say something that is
yeah,
clearly
yeah,
wrong.
I
But I think my
understand. Yeah.
sense is homeless people. I think is treated like it is. Most people who are homeless because they have addiction problem or mental disease that means that they can't break out of a rhythm or habit, because
I see.
they
I
are
see.
definitely programs that try to help them, and we don't have a food stamps program in Denmark. But there is like my mother did get help from the government. You get per child you have, you get
Kind of
money.
welfare kind
Yeah,
of thing.
yeah. And
Yeah.
if you get up to a high tax bracket, then you just doesn't you don't get that much, or you get nothing at all, because yeah, you don't need it.
So,
So there are different, like if you're low income, or yeah, you're struggling to have enough money for things, you definitely have quite a lot of support from the government in that.
so
So
let me
that's so.
let me tell you this. Imagine if people in Denmark, I think actually Denmark could be a more fertile grounds for startups than anywhere else, considering, you see, the problem happens, and you and I could relate to this very well. You already have a job and you have a family, and you want to support your family, right? And then after the fact, you're thinking about, oh, maybe I should have a startup, right? And now you're thinking about, well, how do I balance this? How does this work? How do I go and actually run my startup? And I'm telling you this from real life experience, right? You know, you're taught in school as you're growing up, grow up, go to college, get a job, get married, and that's it, right? But nobody, and I've never seen a parent tell their child, hey, grow up and do a startup. Take my garage and do a startup. Don't worry about college. Ironically, though, most of these sites like Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, most of these were like college dropouts. They're just people that were like, you know what? Even Elon Musk, like he'd say, I don't really care if you have a degree, right? Maybe degrees need to be reconceptualized, right? Maybe rethought, right? It could be helpful for some, because the funniest thing I heard the other day is that they talk about the 3% that dropped out of college and made it, but they don't talk about the 97% that dropped out of college and actually really suffered and they couldn't get a chance and opportunity. But I see what you're saying. I see, like, it's always like Maslow hierarchy of needs. If you have this bottom of the pyramid, right, secured, and people don't have to worry about that. Does Denmark have universal income? Was it you guys who tried, or was
No,
it Sweden?
no, no, I can't remember who tried that,
Mm.
but no,
Some
we don't
some
have
some
it.
European country, they said, "Oh, we're gonna give everyone
Yeah.
$2,000 every month," and they do some of that here in America, by the way, in Alaska, because there's only so few people, like 500,000 people,
Yeah.
and Alaska has oil. We produces
Yeah.
oil, right? So they
So they
basically
can
give.
afford it.
Yep, they give dividends to people who live there. They say, "Come live in Alaska. We'll give you, around $2,000, every month or every year, something like that." And to
Yeah.
just entice people to come and live in the place, because I went to Alaska. It's cold. I know you live in Iceland, and it's cold.
Yeah.
Like,
It
like
was
okay,
snowing just 1 hour ago here,
it's
and
just
it's
what's the coldest you've seen in Iceland? Let's just say that in
I don't
Celsius.
know, 22 degrees Celsius, minus 22.
Minus
But
22, right?
yeah,
Mm.
but I remember that. But it really depends on the humidity. Like I tried like +1, like slightly rainy, very windy in Copenhagen, and that was colder than -10 in Iceland, where there's no humidity and no wind, and it's just it 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 changes quite a bit depending on humidity. So it's not really comparable, I guess. But yeah, it's a different kind of weather, definitely. Beautiful nature up here, though.
So
But
so okay, so
I think to back to your question, I think in Denmark, if you don't have a job, your job is going to the municipality, and they will help you try to apply for jobs and find
yeah,
jobs for you. And but while you do that, you get paid, you get money from the government or from the municipality
welfare.
to
Nice.
sustain you. Yeah, yeah,
Nice.
and it's but there's obviously some regulations and some things around that help you, and also force you a bit to not just sit on your sofa, and
Yep.
because
Yep. They will work
that
with you to find a job and
yeah, yeah,
actually
yeah,
social services and stuff.
and if you have mental problems or something else that prevents you from getting a job, then you'll get the help you need. And if you need more
Interesting.
education, well, then you can go get more education. But it's not easy for people necessarily. It's not like it's not like you're sitting on a bed of roses and just
Yep.
having a good time and playing computer games all day.
Yep.
You have to actually show up and try to do
Show
something with
progress.
yourself. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Uh,
okay,
so
so you went to college, you went to computer science. How did you like your time in college? Did it like, I remember going to college, man, these data structure courses and,
Oh,
they're teaching, oh my Lord, and algorithms and the
so
professor would just stand there and be like, okay, here's a problem, solve it. I'd be like, what is
yeah.
that? Go ahead, go
Yeah,
ahead,
no,
go ahead.
that's also why I have a lot of respect for guys like Mads and Mads Torgersen and Anders
Yeah,
Heilsberg and those people,
yeah.
because they are they actually know the algorithms.
Academic,
I'm pretty
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah, and I actually managed to get a good grade in the algorithm course, but like the algorithm data structure course. But it took it was like a Herculean. It was a big effort for me. I really had to spend a lot of time reading up on the material and sort of so after doing getting a bachelor's degree from University of Copenhagen, I moved to a different university called the IT University of Copenhagen, which has slightly more less academic, more in, engineering focus. Like they
Like
focus more on
practical, pragmatic kind
yeah,
of,
like how do
yeah.
you actually apply this? So I wasn't really keen on taking the advanced compiler course or the advanced data structures course. I was more like, how do I
Mm.
actually go out and build stuff and use that creative part of it? And I gather that building an algorithm is also very creative, but I've never been strong in maths. So being able to sort of step out of that and find another niche where I sort of felt like much more at home. Um, that helped. But then I also decided to take 1 year and move to go to UCSD, University of California, San Diego, and I basically was, I think, 11 months I was spent in San Diego and studying at that university, and that was much more back to the academic way
Yep,
of looking at things.
yep.
But at least I could do elective courses there. So, but it was an amazing experience also going to America and experience that culture there because, you know,
Uh-huh.
sorry,
No worries.
let me see who that is. Yeah, I'll call them back.
Okay,
So sorry about that. Yeah,
no worries.
so yeah, I got to go there and experience like working with fellow students and learning like small things like where the culture thing like we see a lot of American television in Denmark and
Yep.
so you have a sense that especially popular culture, it's not too far. From where what you have in Denmark. Like there's many common values, but I also was surprised the first time I was talking to some classmates there, and they told me they go to Sunday school at the
For the
have prayer groups
for the
at
church,
the local
yeah.
church, yeah.
Yeah.
And I sort of leaned back and said, "So you study computer science and then you go to church every Sunday?" And since then I actually got some good friends in Denmark who also does that.
Yep.
But so I asked a bit like what do you do when you do go to those study
Prayers.
groups, I guess.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, we sit down in a small group of people who've been together for a couple of years and we talk about our problems. So I was like, oh, that kind of makes sense to me because, obviously in the context of Christianity
Yeah.
and Jesus and so on and so forth, but at least, that's a safe space for them to just sort of like a
Kind of
therapeutic
vent
group.
out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
This.
but
Mhm.
and that's something I think most people could benefit from having a safe place where you can come and talk
Yep.
about your problems without
Yep.
being judged.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
I was like, that makes complete sense to me. I would probably do it in a different context, but having that safe space that was sort of an opener for me that people who I was studying computer science with would do something like that. But that sort of traveling and meeting different cultures, even though you think they might be quite close to yours, there's always some things that you learn from that, and that was a sort of a great experience for me and in general, and being in San Diego, and also the weather is just perfect there, so that's a different thing. But
Yeah.
yeah,
California's fun. Eagle, here's a
yeah, yeah.
question. Here's a question for you. When did you know you wanted to be a software engineer? When did you know this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? Go ahead.
So I don't know if I feel a bit like it was by chance. Like I told you the story about my friend who sort of said, "Well, why don't you just go do that? It's a waste of
Mm-hmm.
opportunity not to do that." So, but I've always been a bit competitive by nature. I always loved creating things and building things, and with both my hands, but also with my mind, obviously. And so it was something that I pushed myself into, and I guess I'm sort of the person when you become good at something, you get immense pleasure out of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So so that's sort of where I landed. I think after getting my bachelor's degree and figuring out I could actually build software and could be good at it, and also got some reference around how to do that. Like I back in the late 2000s and early 2010s, I have read the refactoring book, the clean code book from some of the industry giants, and
Robert C. Martin and these
yeah,
folks,
yeah,
Fowler, and
and
yeah,
Martin Fowler,
yeah,
and for me as I guess I have like both some perfectionism in me, right? So having those books sort of guide me a bit and teach me, like, because there's so many ways you can build. You can build even this most simple problem. That there's multiple good solutions, and there are many more bad solutions. But having a reference that I would get through those books, like how to build software, construct software in a good way, and then slowly over the last 15 years or so, building that sense of this code is actually like it feels good. So I'm less dogmatic than I was used to be like 15, 10 years ago, where I was sort of very much, well, Roberts says to, have no comments or write, code like so and so. Now I think I'm much more in the camp of just, it has to be like, just write simple code, just,
yeah. Just keep it
and
simple.
yeah.
Let it work.
Yeah, yeah. So and so less rigid around the design patterns book, as I also read that, and I tried to shove all design patterns I could into my programs just to make it feel correct, have that
Yep.
correctness,
Yep.
but sort of slowly gain more confidence, and then now I can sort of have a good sense of I can manage this code if I know if it's like, I think Mark Seaman, who's another person you should definitely have a chat with. He's written a book recently called Code That Fits in Your Head. I need to read that one. But so having that sense of code, and also Dan North as well,
Yep.
who
Yep.
has recently talked about the qubit principles, which is sort of a challenge to the solid principles, but I guess more pragmatic, less stringent, and more like, well, just write simple code is in essence what it's all about, and make and not don't try to be too smart, right? And
Yeah.
that's sort of where I'm at right now in these days, and I really enjoy myself. I really enjoy that creative flow that you can get into, and when you look up from the keyboard and it's 4 a.m. and you should have been to bed like 6 hours ago, but you forgot yourself because just got into that flow state.
You're all the
So
way. I, I,
yeah, yeah.
I, by the way, I don't know if it's Mark Seaman or Sam Newman, but I remember watching a lecture, or I was there in person. I remember, someone asked, I bet it was Sam, and they said, hey Sam, how do you determine the boundaries of a microservice? And he said, if it can fit in my head, then it's small enough, to become a microservice. So maybe that's where
That,
that
that,
came from, but
that sounds like Newman.
so he's I think Sam Newman is a apostle of Fowler, Martin Fowler. I think he takes his teachings, he
Mm,
learns from him, and he takes these, ideas, and then he turns it into materialize. Because Fowler likes to speak like high level. There was one time where he was talking to people about NoSQL, and I was like, why
mm,
Martin Fowler is talking about NoSQL? That's weird. It's like Donald Knuth. I don't know if you're familiar with this guy. It's like Donald Knuth writing code. I would not read that code. He's great at solving problems in high level
mm,
pseudocode algorithms, but actually that writing the implementation, that's a completely different realm. Okay,
mm.
so you're competitive by nature. That's great, and especially if you have that, you're trying to compete with yourself. Kind
Yeah.
of beat your own score. You kind of found yourself in the tech industry. Were you influenced by anybody in your family, like in terms of computers? Like, I asked a lot of people, sometimes people say, oh, my grandfather, my father, all that kind of stuff. Were you influenced by anybody in your family, or did you just feel gaming made sense, it was fun, and then you thought, I want to take this to the next level? And then this guy from Yugoslavia came in, and he was like,
Mm.
kakusi staradish, and then he told you, go learn.
Yeah. No, well, I see it also in my son who's 7 now, and I just like to immerse myself in games. So I got a like free 68, 16 megahertz um, Intel machine
Yeah.
back in old
The
Olivetti, which was an
platinum.
Italian brand. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
with 1.5 megabytes of RAM, and I was able to, and I couldn't really read or speak English properly at that time, and you can argue that I don't even articulate very well and speak very well now today, and I have a thick Danish accent, but that's sort of how I started, just reinstalling DOS multiple times every time I wanted to cheat tweak something, and then getting Wolf 3D to run, and playing around with that, and Duke Nukem and all those things, and going to LAN parties, and so it was. I think it was first when I sort of needed to do something afterwards, after high school, that I sort of started playing around with building websites, and slowly sort of got into that whole thing. But I was very much a gamer for a long time before I sort of decided I probably need to do something that can make me some money at some point. So
He,
yeah,
he, he- so speaking of accents, you speak Danish and you
yeah,
speak English and you
yeah.
speak Icelandic as well.
I wish I could claim that. I can, my kids are better on Icelandic than I need to take some classes, if my
Is it a
wife
big
watches this,
difference?
well, yeah, it's like my wife is virtually here, like punching me on the side. It's no, so Norwegian, Swedish, and Danish are quite close to each other.
Okay,
If
okay.
you actually put in the effort, you can, and people speak slowly, and they're not like in the two eastern and western
Yeah,
in
yeah.
corners of the country, they can
Not the
understand each other.
dialects. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
There's
yeah.
always some like if you go to, I guess, go to the more southern states. There's some heavy dialects as well there in the US. But if you come to Iceland, it's much more Old Norse tongue,
Yeah.
very much more old Germanic based language. So there's some words that translate over, but then there's also quite different language all in all. So I
Interesting.
thought I would, I kept working for a Danish company, so my day-to-day job is speaking with other Danes. So I haven't really given myself a good opportunity to really force myself
To
to
learn
to
the
to, to learn
yeah,
Icelandic. So, but
yeah.
I can sort of stay part of the conversation at home when my wife is speaking Icelandic with the kids, and for the most part, at least. No. So no, I'm not great at I'm not a great what's it called, yes, that's the word I'm
Linguist.
trying to say. Yeah, yeah. Point. Okay.
Eagle, I thought we gotta do a rap song together today.
Oh well, I
So
know two languages, plus C# and JavaScript. So that's your options.
so Eagle, how many kids do you have? How old are they?
5 and 7.
Five
So
and seven.
yeah.
Okay. Very similar to me a little bit. I got
Mhm.
four and almost 4 and 6. So just one year. You're staying ahead. Very competitive, Eagle. What are you gonna do about that? Always ahead of the.
To be honest, I should have started a long time ago. So that's one thing. I'm 42 now. Well, going on 42. Am I 42? I'm 42 now. Yeah. We are 2022. No, I'm 41. I'm getting 40. Going on. Yeah. So
1980, 80,
yeah, 1980.
1970,
Yeah.
1980.
1980. Yeah,
So
yeah,
you're
yeah.
still a
So
millennial. Congratulations.
I guess I am.
Good. Good.
I don't know what that means, but it sounds good. But yeah, no. So I got my kids fairly late, and if I can give an advice to people out there, if they know when they want kids, start as early as you can, afford to have them, and so on and so forth. What circumstances afford you to have kids, and be a good parent
You get to
to
be
them.
with them and
Big,
see them and yeah.
well, the thing is, like, when you get up at a certain age, your body doesn't deal with sleep deprivation as well
Yeah.
as a younger
Yeah.
body.
Yeah.
So you, and so it's just much more. It's I guess it's more taxing. So the earlier you can get children, the better. If you actually want children, and
Yeah.
also it helps focus you, because as soon as you have children, small children, you don't have a lot of free time left.
Yeah.
So that means you have to pick.
You're gonna have to
Like
focus.
going
Yeah.
out and just lying on the sofa all day because you have a hangover. That's sort of a thing of the
It's not
past.
gonna work anymore. Yeah.
Especially the small ones. They wake up at 6 in the morning anyway. They don't
Yep.
care if
Yep.
you have a
Yep.
hangover. You still
Yep.
have to be there and take care of them if you
You
want
have
to
to
be a
make them
decent parent.
breakfast. They don't care. And you
Yeah,
can't
yeah,
just
yeah.
you can't just have a 3 or 4 year old come to you and be like, I want something, and you'll be like, oh, just give me a second. They'll be like, oh, no worries, take your time. They're not gonna do that. They gotta
yeah,
scream
yeah,
and cry and tell you how you want
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Just keep grabbing you,
So,
telling you, "Hey, dude, where's my breakfast?" So,
mm,
let me ask you this. Let's jump back a little bit into technology. When you
mm-hmm,
create a library, you're in this very interesting state right now.
mm-hmm,
In terms of BUnit, you created a library that's great, and then adaptation happens.
mm-hmm,
Honeymoon is over, and now you're in
mm-hmm,
this maintenance state, right?
yeah.
What keeps you going?
Oh,
A lot of
so
open source
yeah, yeah,
maintainers, like,
yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So I've been lucky because I, for some reason or another, have a more or less monopoly on at least
yes,
unit
you
testing. There
do.
are some
Yes, you do.
ways of you can write end-to-end test with different tools. Like if you want to just end-to-end test your Blazor application,
Yeah,
and there are some other tools that build on BUnit that enables you to do snapshot testing as well. From Verify is a good option for that, but. That has enabled me to have a few like Telerik, the Progress Telerik and Sync Fusion have stepped up and are supporting a little bit. So it's not quit your job kind of money I'm getting from them, and
yeah.
by any means, I also like you, for example, you were one of my first private sponsors and
Ah,
like personal sponsors. No, but it's you can share with the folks if you want to how much you're giving me every month, and I think it's amazing. Like you, but and then there's other people as well who chip in a little bit, and then so that, as you said, honeymoon is over. Everybody knows that feeling when you sit down with a new project and it's all greenfield, and you have that where you simply can't put it down and you think about it all day because it's new
yep,
problem all day or every day, and it's so much fun, right? You just a
yep.
new, like a puzzle in piece in the puzzle every day, and everything moves fast, and it's
Just you're excited. It's
yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, but after a while, like it becomes just a regular old project that you have to maintain,
Yep,
and you have to make sure you don't piss people off too much. That actually said, well, we like your stuff, and you made, that's an ego boost, and like people. If you see your download count on Nougat and you see that go up, that's an ego boost. It
yep,
makes you happy. Like I'm competitive. It makes sense for me to build something and have people use it. Otherwise,
yep,
I've had fun, but I've also wasted a bit of my time. Well, I learned something along the way,
yep,
but going beyond the prototyping kind of a thing, then you are at some point you're wasting a bit of your time. So
yep,
I'm very happy to have some financial support.
yeah,
It helps motivate me. It helps motivate my wife
yeah.
so that I can say that I'm going to spend the evening in my office writing code, and then maybe it'll pay for a new computer or pay for us being able to go on
Dinner, whatever.
dinner and stuff like
Yeah,
that. So that definitely helps, and I can't stress that enough. And there's lots of open source projects out there that, to be frank, maybe have more impact than BUnit have, that don't have the same
the
amount of sponsors. So
sponsorship.
so
Hmm.
so I really hope that if people take anything away from us rambling on here for an hour or so, is that if you're using open source, go back to your boss and have your
Sponsor.
like
Yeah,
I appreciate you a lot for supporting me out of your own pocket, but go to your boss instead, because he has a much deeper pocket, and
hmm,
he can deduct that from tax. At least in Denmark he can, and I assume everywhere else as well. And say, well, go in and set up a corporate account on GitHub, and then use the sponsor button there, and just have it be part of your GitHub build. And it's like many small rivers, that all adds up to something in the end
yeah, yeah, yeah,
for open
yeah,
source. So if
yeah.
that's that helps me a lot. That's sort of a motivating factor. And then I also I try really hard when somebody comes in and dumps a pull request, or come in and create an issue. I have that conversation and engage with the
You
community,
really do. You really, really
and
do.
see if I can get some of them to help out a bit. And I have one guy now who's been quite active for the last few months, and that's awesome. And that helps a bit as well. So
I'll,
I
mhm.
the last release was purely from pull request from third. I guess contributors. So my job is more like sitting back and doing reviews and providing feedback, and for that release, and that was, also a job in itself. But that also makes it, that's sort of a new thing I'm trying sort of to build more around, so that I can maybe loosen the grip a bit, and share it with other people, and have other
See,
people
that's
take responsibility.
yeah, that thing that you're doing right now. This is exactly what I do. I support about now 9 NuGet packages, open source projects that are libraries that are being used. I just hit 100,000 downloads on some of these,
Oh, that's
right?
awesome.
But what do I do? I love to delegate.
Mm,
So what I do is that I created an engineering standard, and then I started teaching people that standard, and then I started building every single piece of software that I build according to that standard. So you don't have to understand what the library is doing fully to be
mm,
able to contribute to it. This is just me putting on my engineering manager hat here and saying, let me teach you something that you can use to
mm,
build end-to-end software, and then let me delegate the ownership. I agree with you. There are points in time. Like right now, I'm trying to, evolve the tracing in
mm-hmm,
.NET in a way that is just plug and play, right?
mm-hmm,
Some of these things you're gonna have to engage, but some other work is just grunt work. You know what I mean? You just have to upgrade the library or make sure there's test-driven development for a
mm-hmm,
particular feature and all that kind of stuff. But okay, let's just come back to you on this one. You
mm-hmm,
know, so okay, so you start a project, you get super excited, and then you want to keep the maintenance going and all that kind of stuff. Would
mm-hmm.
you ever be willing to repeat that again? And let's say you had a new idea, right?
Oh,
And yeah,
definitely. That's
yeah,
the problem.
yeah.
No, I definitely would like to do that, and also because I initially, one of my motivations was definitely to get my name out there and become, a part of the community, become a
Hmm.
voice, become
Hmm.
recognized name at some level, and that was sort of like like my competitiveness, my internal need to have an impact. And
Hmm. Hmm.
but I think one of the things I'm definitely would want to do, and I'm talking to one of my colleagues at work and see if we
Hmm.
can start something up as well, is that to not go at it alone a second time.
So what are you up to these days, Eagle? What are you planning to build next? If you
Well,
can if you can share, if you can't, then that's a different story.
well, it's just on an ideal level, but building something where you can do what's it called, a design first or spec first approach to APIs. So when you take an
Ah,
open API specification and
you just generate,
you then
you
you
know.
generate all the boilerplate until you basically are left with only having to implement the business logic behind each of the APIs. Because the open API spec is so detailed, you can
Yeah,
get quite a lot done. And we actually have something like that already at work
yeah.
that is open sourced as well. And but it's generating ASP.NET Core Web API. So like the basic, well, not basic, the classic, as it were, I guess, compared to minimal API. And
Uh-huh.
we've been talking about doing something similar but for minimal API, and utilizing sort of the underlying platform around minimal API to create a really performant, but also auto-generated, all the boilerplate, all the mappings and everything, and then have a standard way of looking at things. But it's something we have like he's a busy man as well, and so we have to find spare
Gotta
time in the
find the
weekends and
time.
such. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we need to want to really look into how we can, because there's lots of edge cases with the open API spec. So it's going to take a while, and I'm still not sure if it's going to turn into anything, but it's definitely something that is something we use quite a bit at work, like that, generating an API from a spec. But we want to try to move it up to the minimal API level as well, and see what we can do around that.
Where do you work, by the way, Eagle?
I work at a Danish consultancy called Delegate. So
Delegate.
it's a
Okay.
complete Microsoft-based shop,
Yeah.
and we have people who do like low-code solutions and AI and data, lots of data science and project and all. Basically, it's a very Microsoft-focused shop. I actually think we won Partner of the Year in Denmark last year from
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft,
Mm-hmm.
and
Nice.
it's a like I sort of stumbled into that job
Yeah.
because I was at a different consultancy, which I was also very happy at, but they weren't really ready for me to be remote in Iceland.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I ended up moving to Delegate, and it's just been fantastic. It's a really great place to work. We actually won that prize, best IT
Nice.
company in Denmark to
Oh,
work for
really? Nice.
in the great place to work, because there's just like from the top level and down, there's some very strong focus on the
Engineering. Yeah.
yeah, but it's like if we want to specialize, and they chose to specialize in micro technologies, but they also say, well, if you have kids sick, if you have problems at home, if you have things you need
Oh,
to deal with,
yeah.
so they are really like the work life balance is absolutely fantastic with them, and they also allow me time to be part of the open source community, and they appreciate.
The contributions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it was sort of a lucky incident, coincidence. I landed in that position, but it's been absolutely fantastic for me, and it sort of fits very well with what I want to do with my life. And in general, I try to strive to optimize for happiness,
Yeah.
like make
Yeah.
as much as my day, make sure that I have as much of my day doing stuff where I make that makes me happy. If
Oh,
that
I
makes sense. Like
love that. I love that.
so
I optimize
so
for happiness.
yeah,
Nice.
and
Nice.
and
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
so that was fantastic, and yeah. So and if you have any viewers out there who wants to know more about
Work as
Delegate,
delegate.
yeah, yeah, give me a give me a ping on Twitter or where LinkedIn or wherever you want to. Definitely, we are always looking for good colleagues. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I know a couple of people up your neck of the woods. Maybe I should ping them and tell them, check out the
absolutely.
Eagle. How long? So you're a principal software engineer at Delegate, right? You're a big deal over there.
Well, I think they are calling me a distinguished developer now. They
Ooh, that's even
changed.
bigger.
I actually think it's sort of a lateral move.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
changed they changed things around last year with the like the hierarchy. Is it not really a hierarchy? It's just different responsibilities.
yeah.
We also have a very top spot for, I think it's I can't remember what it's called, but it's like if we get
But
something like Anders Harlisberg join us, then
yeah,
he'll be there. It's it's like the unattainable level.
yeah.
But yeah,
Anders here at Microsoft, we call him a distinguished engineer, like a senior
okay.
distinguished engineer, which is basically where you are in your company.
Yeah, no, I think principal is one level higher, so they
Hmm.
changed things around. So I still have
Yep.
one level to go before I basically topped
To
out.
get
But
to get the
it's fine.
distinguished. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
How long have you been professionally a software engineer, experience wise?
So I started working in 2005 while studying. So that's another thing, and not too uncommon in computer science in Denmark.
Yep.
That at least at that time it was like people would basically spend 6 years taking a 3 years
Yep. Yep.
worth of
Yep.
bachelor and then work part time because there was no rush really.
Yep.
Well, I could probably have earned quite a bit more money if I just crammed and got my degree and then went into the job market full time. But that's a different story. So yeah,
Yep.
I've been
Yep.
working like part time and since 2005, and then when I finished my degree, I started working full time. So
That's almost 18 years now. 17, 18 years now. That's quite a
yeah,
bit of
that's
time. That's dedication right there. Sounds like you really like this job.
well, it's I think
Or
at least
craft
for
rather.
me, yeah. Well, for me, it's a luxury. Like there are quite a few people out there who just have an 8 to 4 and do their thing and go home, and they don't really like they don't. But I when I when I'm done with work, if I have the energy left, I'll sit and
Go
code
write
in the
more
evening. If I,
software.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I really love that whole development process. So I'm just lucky to be able to do what I love both for work and for fun. So
This is
yeah.
what I really love about you, brother. Like, people who actually go above and beyond, outside of the box. I don't have to do this. I could just call it a job. I always tell people there's a big difference between an employee and an engineer, right? An employee is a clock watcher. They'll just look at it, hits 5 o'clock, and I'm out. I don't want to do not that this is nothing wrong with it, but there's an engineer that just takes this as a conviction. You know what I mean? You're always not happy with the current state of things. And I think people like yourself are, this energy is the reason why we push the envelope of innovation forward, right? When a new framework or a new technology or something like this comes up, and people start supporting it and pushing it through with frameworks, and this is blood and sweat. You're putting a part of yourself out there into the code base, and that's what I really respect and appreciate about you.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle, what what is an advice you want to give to the younger engineers that are joining the industry? An advice you would give to your younger self, as you're entering the software industry.
So I don't think my younger self would listen to me, but I'll give it a try anyway. No, it's for me. It's always a matter of chance. You have to be at the right time to hear advice. You have to be in the right mindset to hear that advice, and sometimes it takes a while before you are able to process what is being said to you. But I can definitely share with you, I think I actually have 4 things I want to mention, and still things I say to myself every day today. So when you have a good idea, find somebody to share it with and build it with. So I have too many repositories that are prototypes of things that never became things. And so I can ask myself, well, why didn't you go out and find somebody to build it with? Well, maybe I was, afraid they would steal my idea and, run away with it. I didn't want to share in the glory, or, but in the end, I think it's better to share the glory than, to share nothing and to have nothing for yourself. And that so especially when I was young, like in my early 20s, I would have lots of good ideas, and I know they're good ideas because they turned into products somebody else built. Because I had the idea, and then I thought about it, and then I tried maybe prototyping a little bit, and then I ran out of energy, and I didn't have enough time, and then But I'm like working with other people. That's the fastest way to become better, to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
to learn, to get a new
Pairing.
perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, pairing. So find somebody.
Yep.
If you have a good idea, find somebody to do it with, and
Yep.
don't be afraid to don't be afraid to share. Because it's usually just going to come back to you.
Yep.
Another thing that's really inspired me back when I was in high school is, and I still think about today, is like, don't be afraid to be vulnerable, or put it differently, ask questions, or think you should know everything. We talked about imposter syndrome before, or be too proud to look stupid. Like those things I would try to tell myself. I might not listen when I was 20, but I remember distinctly I had a classmate back in high school who would sit up front, and he would constantly ask questions about things that were being taught, and some of them I knew the answer to, but a lot of them I didn't. But he wasn't afraid to ask the questions, and maybe look
Just
stupid,
unveil some of that.
yeah.
Yeah.
And a lot of that obviously has to do with self-worth. Like, are you able to put yourself out there, and is it okay that people might snicker or laugh or think it's a stupid question? But I actually think well, obviously you can't tell people how to feel, and self-worth is very much about feeling, and you can't tell people how, it's very personal feelings coming from the inside, so you can't
Yep.
really tell people
You don't
you
know
should
what-
be happy
yeah.
now, or you should be you should
Click
have
the
high
button.
self-esteem.
I'm happy.
Yeah. But what I would tell myself is that I shouldn't be afraid to ask, ask the questions of things I don't know, because if there are people who wouldn't, like me for doing that, would think I was stupid or whatever, well, that's also says something about them, and you probably don't want them in your life anyway.
That's true.
So
These are
don't
toxic
be
folks. You don't need to.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, and one thing I'm still doing my very best to work on is listen more than I talk. And so again, optimizing learning, and I tend to talk a lot, and I probably felt a few times during this conversation to also listen to what you say, because I was excited about something you said.
It's about you,
to
man.
yeah. No, but it's a thing for at least for me, is to remember to stop and actually listen properly. And the last thing, I think you do that very well, Hassan. You are very complimentary, but you're also genuine, and you lift people up. And put people up, for the world to see. And I don't know if you've seen the TV show on Apple TV called what's his name? The football coach, the American football coach who went to the UK to coach a UK football team. But he's very much like that. He lifts people up. He praises people. He makes people feel comfortable and help, and sort of is a positive impact and positive force. And it's not about him. He tries to make it about other people, and that is something I aspire to as well. But it's sometimes hard to put somebody in front of you instead of taking the praise for yourself, even if it's deserved. And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes it's okay, but also it's also if you push somebody up, then they usually pull
Yeah.
you with them up. And
Yeah.
if you do that with enough people, well, then it's a force multiplier, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you're doing with your methodology.
Yeah.
That's what I consider a 10x developer right there, because you are teaching others in a very effective manner how you think a good software should be built, and by that you are basically that 10x developer, because you have find an effective medium to communicate to them, and then you are lifting them up as well.
Thank you, Eagle. I appreciate that. This is like a badge of honor to me. I'm not nearly as smart as you or any of the other people that I work
Oh
with, but
no.
but I'll tell you that much though. The I don't know how to think too fast, but I love people. I really genuinely do. Like sincerely, like even in this very moment while you and I are talking, when I'm talking to you, this is coming from here. It just reflects here, but it's coming from deep, deep in my heart. And the other thing I wanted to tell you about is that I think that if you believe in people, people come through, right? I think there's a lot out there, especially these last 2 years, 3 years, man. If it's not a pandemic, it's war, and if it's not war, I hope you and your family are safe, and everybody else. I hope this war ends soon. I grew up in the northern sides of Saudi Arabia during the Iraq War, and I don't think people really understand fully, what war is. It's unnatural. This is why people get the post-traumatic stress disorder out of it, because you're putting yourself and your body through something that is not human, not natural. But anyway, the bottom line is, I want to tell you that you are awesome. I really appreciate the work that you do. I want you to know that wherever I go, whatever we, build new systems, internal or external, we always use your work. We always, look at your pull requests, commit history. We look at, how you're really, really fully, working really hard and documenting this library, and this is conviction. This is beyond. I know you like to say, "Oh, I'm getting sponsorships and all that." There's a little bit more there than just that. And believe me, I do sponsor a lot of people. I see a lot of libraries that have sponsors, but there's a lot of rigor and righteousness in the work that you do. And please don't ever change. Keep that fire going. You're impacting a lot of people. I don't know, how much your library is impacting today. Let's take a little stroll in Eagle Hansen's. You started to actually diversify, right? Your B unit now is, let's see, B unit. If you type B unit and then you go to newgate.org, there it is. How far are you going now? Oh my lord, you're almost hitting 500,000 downloads. 500,000
Actually,
downloads.
if you look at the bunit core library, which is in
Bunit.core like this.
yeah, yeah, because
Ooh.
that is very close to 1 million, but that is sort of a bunit is just a wrapper library that contains a bunch of the lower libraries. So
It's
not all people
everybody,
use the
yeah.
bunit. Yeah, yeah, but yeah,
Look at
it's a been
that.
amazing path to get there, and I've learned so much during that time as well, and also have. Extreme respect for my colleagues in open source, because as you say, it's not an easy job to maintain a library and keep it going for such a
Yeah,
long time.
yeah,
And so yeah, I people like Jimmy Bogart, another person that
yeah.
would be fun for you to bring on here. He's been doing lots of open source packages, but he's been able to he said that he only does open source when somebody pays him to, like, through his job. So he will do open source when he's on a consultancy contract or something. And I think
Yeah.
that's actually a approach that will keep you sane, so you don't end up
In a
spending
situation where, oh, he's the creator of AutoMapper, Jimmy.
yeah,
I need to
and
talk to this
mediator.
guy.
Yeah. He's also very has some very good talks on YouTube from different conferences. So he's definitely he's an interesting guy.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah, and it was Ted Lasso. The TV show is called Ted Lasso. It's a very good at if you want some examples of how to be a positive manager. That's a good TV show to watch.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Eagle. I appreciate you,
Thank you
brother.
for the
And
kind words.
I know you were a little bit under the weather, so I hope you're feeling better. And I
I
look
am.
forward to
Thank you.
making more and more podcasts with you. Like I said, I'm just doing this round of kind of getting together and talking to pioneers really in our tech industry, and I always love to hear from you. I always love to hear your thoughts, and I also want to appreciate the fact that you just jump in some of our pairing sessions and here's what I think, here's how this is going to
Mm.
work, here's my ideas. It takes a lot of kindness and empathy, and a lot of selflessness, for someone to go and say, let me try to help, with this approach. Let me try to say something, that might be helpful. I appreciate you for that. And
Mm.
of course, as usual, how do you say don't forget to like and subscribe in Danish?
I don't even know
I
because I
don't
don't see
even
any Danish YouTubers, so I don't know what the catchphrase is in Denmark. Like it's all English anyway.
I
I guess it would be.
uh,
I guess it would be. It would be. What would it be? Husk nu at like og subscribe.
there you
Yeah.
go. See, like and subscribe. It's very
Like
much
and
the
subscribe. Yeah, we use a lot of English words in our Danish language. It's gone. It's all the old words are being replaced with English equivalents. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Eagle. I appreciate you're a very kind person, and
Mm.
I'll see you soon. You guys know,
Yeah.
like Eagle said, don't forget to like and subscribe. See ya.
Yeah. Do that. See you. Bye bye.